So why do we need to accept more Gazan students? Why do we need to make it easier for so-called refugees to work? Why do we need to give asylum seekers brand new luxury homes? Why are the rights of non-Brits more important than actual Brits? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Daily Express columnist Carole Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth and political commentator James Price. Carole, I'll start with you on this. I mean, the big announcement today, I suppose, from the Home Secretary, as far as I could see anyway, was more Gazans and refugees having the right to work. Your thoughts on that?
Yes. There was a judgment by a guy called, I think it was Hugo Norton.
Benedict Norton Taylor, a classic.
Hugo.
Yeah.
Anyway, he passed the judgment recently, and he ruled that a Palestinian family of 6 could come here. And it caused outrage because what that meant was anyone from any war, conflict area could potentially come to this country. And this is happening all the time with judges in this country. We have partisan judges who are passing ludicrous, outrageous judgments. And we saw it on Friday where 3 Labour voting left-wing judges overturned the judgment of 2 weeks before. And not only did they overturn, they criticised the judge who had made it and said he'd actually made mistakes. The person who you could say made the mistake was a guy called Mr Justice Bean, who overturned it. However, that's why we're having these rights, because the British people now can see clear as day that the establishment, that the government and our judiciary don't give a stuff about what we think, we feel about immigration, how it's affecting our lives, how it's destroying communities, how the crime rate is rocketing because of it. They don't give a stuff. They have said quite clearly that migrants' rights are more important than British people's rights. That is going to reverberate around this country in the same way we've seen it today. And I fear for what's going to happen if the judiciary keeps on ignoring the will of the people over immigration. What Yvette Cooper has done today is again tickling around the edges of a problem. She should have done this months ago, where she has suspended families of illegal migrants coming into this country. She suspended it, not got rid of it. Because what that means is that people who come here illegally are allowed to bring 5, 6, 7 of their kids over within a very short period of time, when a British person who lives here, who has a foreign partner or husband, has to prove that they earn 29 million quid, 29,000 million, 29,000
well, it'd be nice to know what you're on
between them.
Quite.
So not fair.
But that is that a case of, is this a case, James, of credit where credit's due? That is a good thing from Yvette Cooper, is it not, to say that if you do come to Britain illegally, if we give you British citizenship, if you want to bring anyone over, you'll have to prove that you're earning some money.
Well, what happens then, of course, if that person wants to complain under Article 3, your right to a family life in the ECHR? This is always the problem. The state that we've got into now is that whatever the government itself actually tries to do, the legal apparatus in the country can help you undo it and undermine it. Exactly as Carole says. You say you're not allowed to bring people along. That's not fair. I want my wife and my 18 kids and all my other dependents to come along as well, and I'm going to sue you, and the ECHR is going to stand with me on this as well. And that would be one thing if it was Ukraine. It would be one thing if it was Hong Kong, where there seems to be kind of level of democratic support for the problems that have happened there, and either a European connection or a historical one with Hong Kong. When it's Gaza, and you've had generations of people there who have been taught the most awful things in their schools, and you can see UN-funded textbooks that say the most ghastly, awful things about Jewish people, these are not people we want to be having in the country at any point. You've got lots of people in this country who are suffering, lots of people who aren't getting decent education at university levels, certainly not at school levels now that Labour have taken over, and yet you've got the Home Secretary saying we need to have all these Gazans come over so we can give them a good education. It's totally unfair.
Yeah, well, what do you think of those announcements by Yvette Cooper today about Gazan refugees and about refugees being able to work?
Well, I think not letting them bring the whole family with them, it's kind of insane that was the norm beforehand, and so I think it's the right thing to do. It shouldn't be the case that a refugee has an easier route than someone that's got a 35 grand a year job and is contributing. So that seems like it was an unfairness that's being fixed. I don't think it's OK to say that no one from Gaza should come here. We're not talking about taking refugees from Gaza carte blanche, and I don't think we should, because there are serious problems.
What happens if you set a president and you let...
But this example is about people who've got into British universities. Some of those people presumably have scholarships. So these must be very capable, talented people that have earned their place in this country.
Could you see the potential for that to be abused?
Well, I mean, I suppose the question is where you draw the bar of it being good enough, but being good enough to qualify. But I think it would be totally wrong to say that there is one place on earth where people aren't allowed to come to our universities. You know, what would be the difference of Libya or parts of Egypt, you know, where they have very similar attitudes, right?
A very good idea. Let us ban them both as well.
But so I don't think it's wrong. And I also, you know, it doesn't entirely sit well when you see them getting those homes and British people are struggling.
Well, yeah.
However, there's an understatement.
I really hate what this debate has become. This sort of racially charged xenophobic attitude that has taken over in recent months. We have a proud record of helping people struggling from around the world,
yes,
and we should pay for refugees.
We have a proud record of helping people who are fleeing war and persecution. The people coming on the boats every day are not fleeing war and persecution.
You don't know that.
Yes, I do.
Why would they get refugee status if they're not?
Well, because the government can't deal with the amount of refugees that's coming. But what I didn't know was, and Jack Straw, the ex-Labour Home Secretary, has said the other day clearly that the ECHR, we do not have to obey their rulings. He said quite clearly that the law says we have to take heed of them, but we are not governed by them. We can ignore them if we want to. Also, the Human Rights Act can be changed so that we don't have to take any notice of the ECHR. So why are we letting these people come in day after day after day when we literally don't have to?
James, what did you make of some of the police tactics that we saw over the weekend there? It's quite concerning. I mean, it came off the back of Bridget Phillipson saying that, well, basically acknowledging that she stood by, the government stood by their legal advice, which did say, really, as far as I could tell, that essentially the rights of asylum seekers or illegal immigrants outweighed, in certain cases, the rights of locals. You then saw quite heavy-handed police tactics, really, at 2 protests over the weekend.
It doesn't seem like it's going to help lower tensions, does it? Seeing police officers snatching Union Jacks and pepper spraying people. Pepper spray, by the way, which you're not allowed to carry in this country to protect yourself from some of the crimes that the people protesting are worried about, of course, right?
Oh,
so
really?
police could, but you're not allowed to have pepper spray in this country. When my American wife, who was already upset that she had to leave her gun collection back in Indiana, realised she wasn't allowed even to have pepper spray to defend herself, and now you've got police officers using it on protesters. And yet, when you compare it to some of the protests we saw around Gaza, the people screaming how much they love Hamas and all the rest of it, you saw people committing crimes and the police doing nothing and waiting and doing facial recognition stuff to go and nick them later because they didn't want to inflame tensions and all the rest of it. Other incidents where it's, you know, the people worrying about their own country, you're seeing these ridiculously heavy-handed tactics. It's not going to end well for anybody.
Do you think we've got a bit of a problem at the moment, Benjamin, with politicians who seem out of touch and have got into a right mess over legal issues here and a question of priorities and a hierarchy of rights, really, in this country, at which Brits do not appear necessarily to always be at the top. And also the police, not necessarily dealing with these protests particularly well as well, creating a bit of a powder keg.
No, I think many of these protesters don't really care. They just see an opportunity for disorder, for promoting their racist views and for getting angry in the street. Absolutely. You know, the other day, I was
Are you seriously saying everyone in Epping who has been on the streets protesting are racist? Are you saying that's what they're doing?
I mean, there's
I'm
a
not
mum
here to say
there who's just
everybody,
spent
but I bet there's a
24
lot of
hours
them.
in custody for unfurling a flag off a civic building.
But these people don't care about this country. I mean, they've been going round ruining town centres by spray painting red crosses on everything, costing us all money.
These people, you're probably in favour of Just Stop Oil doing it.
These people,
Palestine Action or whatever they were called before that. They're just going and smashing up banks and spraying red paint everywhere.
Actually, you asked the question.
The frustration of the British people.
You're allowed to be frustrated. You're not allowed to damage lampposts.
Well, you could tell that to the Palestinian protesters as well, because they damage things all of the time. But do you not see the frustration that people in this country who are broke, who need a house, who need a job, they see people coming in...
and what's sticking a flag up a lamppost going to do for that? These people
you asked the question about whether politicians have got themselves in a mess over this, as have police and everything else. We seem to have this idea that we have a separation of powers in Britain, that they do in America. We don't, because we didn't have to fib about George III. Parliament is sovereign. Parliament can do what it wants. We don't like the laws, and we don't. Parliament can and should change them. It could get rid of all all of this nonsense. It could overrule all the ECHR stuff if it wanted to. The people we should be most angry at are the Labour government, the Labour MPs, who don't seem to want to do any of this stuff, and they seem to want to let the ECHR and judges go and litigate all of this stuff for them.
The government you were in didn't do any of these things.
Yeah, but it's fair point.
It did plenty of things. It could have done more.
Fair point. They had plans in place to deal with it, which the Labour
14
Party
years.
scrapped.
Oh, all right, we've got to go. And the reason why I want to go is because actually I've got a bumper segment. We did touch there on those £300,000 homes for asylum seekers, and I thought the compare and contrast there was with those veterans who are being evicted in Bolton. I'm very pleased to say I've got a couple of them on shortly.